Nice to see so many familiar names in the chat here. All right, let's get started. First of all, thank you everybody for coming to the AGM this year. Really appreciate everybody showing up. For people who are going to be speaking, please mute your mics when you're not speaking, and do turn on the camera when you're presenting. For everybody in the audience here, we'll have hopefully some time for Q&A at the end, so you'll be able to unmute your mic, raise your hand at the end of this and ask questions. You can also ask questions in the chat. We have a lot of folks here who can answer them either in real time, or we can get to those at the end. So thank you for that. My name is Pete Brown. I'm the chair of the executive board, and I'd like to welcome you all officially to this year's annual general meeting. So first, a bit of a thank you, a couple of thank yous actually. So first, thank you for voting in this year's election. I'd like to introduce to you the 2026 Executive Board and the 2026 Technical Standards Board, all made possible because you folks voted in the election. Let us know who it is that you wanted to have representing you and driving the MIDI Association over the next year. So thank you so much for participating in that. My second thank you, and Tim can't be here today, but I just wanted to formally thank Tim because this is the last AGM for Tim Carroll, who is our outgoing president. His term ends this calendar year. For those of you who don't know Tim, Tim is the CEO of Focusrite, and he's been able to help the MIDI Association at events by using his influence as the CEO of Focusrite and his ability to talk at the same level with all these other CXOs at companies to explain to them what MIDI 2.0 is and why it's important and why they should adopt it in their software or in their hardware. And I had the privilege of going around with him at the NAMM show this past year and meeting with a bunch of folks. And Tim was a fantastic asset to the MIDI Association and a great person to have going around and talking to these companies. So just a thank you to Tim for kind of always grabbing an oar and explaining MIDI 2.0, not only at a technical level, but at a level that makes sense for product owners and decision makers to be able to work into their planning to be able to get devices and software with MIDI 2.0 in it. So thank you, Tim. Sorry you couldn't be here today, but it's recorded, so I'm sure this will pop up for you later. And then speaking of events, over the past year, we've done a lot of different events. There are a few folks in the MIDI Association who have gone out and who have been doing the hard work to set up MIDI presences at these different events, to set up presentations, to do videos that are recorded on the YouTube channel, to present technical information to new audiences, and to be able to evangelize MIDI 2.0 to these audiences, not only the product makers, but also the general public. So, for example, one of the most recent ones here was Music China. And you can see Andrew and Mike there giving a presentation up there on the right. Lots of great content came from that, but more importantly, it was entirely new audiences and entirely new folks who are being exposed to what the MIDI Association does and also what MIDI 2.0 can do for them. So thank you again to all the folks who have been working at those events and helping to kind of spread the good word about MIDI 2.0. Another recent event that was done was Super Booth 2025, which was back this past May. We had a good setup in, as the folks who were there know, an extremely hot hallway up in Super Booth. But the conversations that were happening there with a lot of the builders and kind of the small indie developers were great. They were learning about MIDI 2.0. They were learning about how to incorporate it into their products, and they were learning about what it brings to the table for their customers so that they're able to use MIDI 2.0 in their products. And then really the last one I wanted to talk about here from over the past year is the NAMM show. This is the show we tend to have one of the largest presences at, although Music China is getting pretty big as well. This is kind of a key place for us to get all the press coverage for MIDI 2.0, and also the products that you all, as members of the MIDI Association, are creating. So, for example, the MIDI Innovation Awards, which we'll talk about here in a second, had their own section at the NAMM show, and that was being picked up by press outlets. And I think probably more importantly, that was being picked up by musicians and the general public as they would walk by, say, the Innovation Awards booth or the music accessibility booth, and try things out and understand why some of these things are important to important to them and important to their customers. And we also showcase things like the new technology, like where is MIDI 2.0 going? Where is the MIDI Association going? Things like network MIDI and some of the new standards that we're working on. And then finally, it had, at the NAMM show, like a roster of sessions and performances that were just happening constantly throughout the entire duration of the show, with great audiences there coming in and learning about all the things that they can do with MIDI 2.0 so that they can bring that back and be able to make the most of the technology. So again, thank you to all the members of the MIDI Association who have been involved with all these events and have set up these events, presented at them, or had products that they were showcasing at these events. We really appreciate your involvement in this, and we're really excited to show off even more MIDI devices and MIDI technology over the next year. And then one thing I mentioned is the MIDI Innovation Awards. This is another place where, this is all about what you have done over the past year. This is about what the members have created for devices and software that makes really interesting uses of MIDI. This is one way that we can get the public excited about how they should use MIDI in their workflows, or other more innovative ways that they can use MIDI going forward. It's really a nice glimpse into kind of where things are headed in terms of MIDI, but also it's kind of like showing the concept cars, as well as just like the latest and greatest of the developments out there, so that these folks can get inspired by some of the capabilities of these devices. So, for example, the one of the first ones is MIDI 2.0 full motion key position sensor modules. That's a mouthful. It sounds like a lot, but the minute somebody comes over and they start pressing on the keys and they realize that this is a different type of expression, that gets folks very excited, and they start going back to the other manufacturers. They start going back to the companies that they're working with, and they're able to evangelize these capabilities and make more of MIDI in there. And there are many others as well. I don't wanna single out one, even though I did. But I would really like to thank all the entrants for the MIDI Innovation Awards this past year. We have 6 winners here, but really, not to sound cliché, but everybody was a winner. Like, everything that we saw that came through was fantastic. So thank you for your participation in that. And also a shout out to the judges that we had this year, who had the hard job of going through and figuring out which devices and which software and which technology and which demos are the ones that we wanted to give an award to. And I think the fact that year after year we have many, many entries into this shows just how healthy and vibrant the MIDI ecosystem is. So I'm really excited for this. Thank you for the folks who ran the MIDI Innovation Awards, and looking forward to the next one. Of course, we have many other events and meetups that happen over the year. And really, the reason we show up at these events is to make it easier for you as members to not have to, take the burden of evangelizing MIDI 2.0 and explaining MIDI 2.0 to all of your customers each time. We're trying to get the public and trying to get the ecosystem set up so that they understand what MIDI is and why it's important to them. And we have a bunch of links here. We'll make at least the links in the slide deck available afterwards so that you can see those. But lots of great content here, as well as on the MIDI Association's channel on YouTube. So one thing I do want to show, I have a couple of quick videos here that we wanted to put together. And one is showing off the new curriculum that is part of the MIDI and music education effort. So let me start that. I just have to mute myself.
See this? It's the blueprint for something brand new in music education, the Global MIDI Certification Program. Over a year of planning, meetings, and expert collaboration, all to create the world's first official credential for mastering MIDI. Since October 2024, international leaders from the MIDI Association, SAE Mexico, and Coursera have shaped every lesson and activity to meet professional standards. Our team of music educators and MIDI professionals reviewed every concept like producers perfecting a mix. The result is a multimedia interactive certification pathway, available worldwide through Coursera and SAE Mexico. Learn at your own pace, practice with real DAWs, earn a credential that proves your MIDI expertise to studios, schools, and employers everywhere. New to MIDI? No problem. Level 1 takes you from the basics, what MIDI is, how it works, and why it powers today's music, to hands-on skills you can use immediately. And this is just the beginning. Advanced certifications will dive into MIDI 2.0, film scoring, gaming, education, and more, expanding your creative and career possibilities. This program is the first step toward a global standard in music technology. How far can it take you? That depends on your creativity and your next move. Start your journey today. Enroll in the Global MIDI certification and turn your passion into a recognized professional credential. Let's make music history together.
All right, so I know that was a lot of content there. So first of all, thank you to partners SAE Mexico for developing this curriculum along with the MIDI Association. But this is another step that we're taking to help the public and musicians out there get educated on what's new in MIDI. So they understand the new capabilities. They understand how it can make their music making more fun and more enjoyable and more expressive, as well as just providing a formal way for us to create a learning path that musicians and educators and whatnot can use as part of their program. So we will have some links here for the videos and whatnot on this. There's also some good walkthrough videos on YouTube that explain how the curriculum works and the specifics of certifications and whatnot. So let me go through to the next one. The next video that we have here is for music accessibility. And one thing I wanted to bring up, because we've been participating in more events related to accessibility and explaining to folks about how accessibility is important in this space, is first of all, there's a requirement for accessibility that we should all just have as table stakes. But second of all, one thing that was brought up in a recent board meeting is that when you have these highly accessible devices available at an event like the NAMM show or any of these other events, they tend to be the things that people find very approachable, and they can come up and they can try them out themselves and they can engage with you, and it can start generating this great cycle of discussion between you and these customers. Even if accessibility wasn't the top thing on their mind, it is something that can help draw them in and help explain how they can create music using the technology that you're creating. Now, let me just roll a quick video here that shows the other and really big impact of supporting accessibility in your products.
The 2025 MIDI Innovation Awards are shining a light on accessibility, celebrating groundbreaking tools that empower everyone to create music. This year's finalists are truly inspiring. The Arcana Strum helps learners connect with music like never before. Its intuitive design makes it easy to play chords with a single touch, even if you have physical challenges. Connect Through MIDI allows anyone to instantly experience the joy of making music together. Connect any MIDI instrument and jam right away, always in key and without making any mistakes. Cosmo opens new worlds of creativity with accessible sound exploration. Its tactile design is perfect for therapeutic and educational play, encouraging discovery. These MIDI innovations share one mission: breaking down barriers, fostering inclusion, and making music truly universal for everyone.
Great. So again, those are the types of technologies that are really generating a lot of engagement. If you are at the NAMM show in January and we have these things set up again there, especially some of the ones you see in the MIDI Innovation Awards, try them out. They're just really fun as well as being super accessible. So with that, I'm going to take a break from talking here for a second. And Mike, if you could unmute and pop your camera on, I would like Mike to talk a little bit about some of the changes and specifications done over the past year. Mike?
Thanks, Pete. Hello to everybody. Thank you for coming to this AGM. I have just a few news items here today. Starting with joint IP policy with AME. The MIDI Association, we have our own IP policy that that dictates how we share information with each other and protects members. AME has a very, very similar joint IP policy, but there's no link between the two policies, and things that get contributed in the MIDI Association aren't covered by the IP policy of AME and vice versa. And so we intend to establish a joint IP policy. The executive board has studied both IP policies. We think AME's policy document is actually slightly better, so we're going to use that as a framework as we move ahead. And this will be a project that we take on in 2026 to write a new policy, and it will require all members then to agree to the new policy and so on. So if that's an area of interest, let us know. The executive board is pursuing this project starting really now, and I say through 2026. In 2025, we made a change to a couple of things around system exclusive manufacturers' IDs. First being that there are no annual renewals required anymore. So when you get assigned a SysX ID, it is your company's SysX ID permanently. We used to ask you to renew by joining the MIDI Association or paying a renewal fee every year. And we've changed that so that it's just permanent. One of the reasons we're making these changes is because MIDI 2.0 requires a system exclusive ID to do all of the discovery, and there's a lot of functions that really require you to have it. So we're trying to lower the barrier to have SysX IDs. So one other way we've done that is by introducing a new non-commercial ID. So the ID 7C can be used by products that are not making a profit, that are not intended to be commercial. This could be freeware or open source software. Those kinds of products can use this 7C. Perhaps in those cases where they're not making any money, the cost of buying one might be a burden to some developers and so on. So we're opening this up so that 7C can be used for those purposes. Then the last thing I'll cover here today is just a few of the profiles that we are now wrapping up. You'll see the piano profile has just finished its 30-day review, and that will be going to vote shortly. The drums profile is also nearing completion. And another important one is the transport and location control profile for hardware devices or remote controllers to control DAWs. These three are really key profiles. They address huge markets of many products. Of course, there are a lot of pianos with MIDI, digital pianos, acoustic pianos, piano plugins. There's a lot of pianos in the market, and it's a key business issue for the musical instrument business. There's just a lot of trade around piano. Same with drums. Electronic drums are a huge market, and so that's an important one. And then there are just so many companies that make products that interface with DAWs, and so these are three very important profiles that will be coming. Two more coming up for review soon, and then we'll be voting on all three of them. And we're also working on these three with the DAW working group. I think this is one of the most important things we've been doing in 2025 is indeed working with DAW companies. We had meetings in Berlin where many of the large DAW companies attended, and they're focused on using these profiles as the first prototypes really to integrate MIDI 2.0 into DAWs. So these are key things that are happening now, and please watch for the review of those and vote for them. And if these are the kinds of products that you make, please engage with these and engage with the MIDI Association as we promote these as focus points in the MIDI Association. At the bottom of the slide there, and these slides I think will be uploaded for everybody later. At the bottom there's a link about the SysX ID policies. Thank you. I turn it back over to Pete.
Thanks, Mike. Lots of good stuff there. And obviously the profiles are something that we do end up talking about a lot. And in fact, we're going to talk a little bit about profiles here in the next section. Andrew, if you could pop your camera on, go through this. Now, just before Andrew and I talk about one of the initiatives that we're doing here, I wanted to talk just a little bit about where Microsoft is, because as I'm always hearing from everybody, we're kind of the last in on this and we're holding folks up. So I want to make sure that we know kind of where we are here with Windows MIDI services. So the developer or test bits have been in the Windows Insider program over the past year, and we've got tons of good feedback from all of you, a lot of the people who are in the audience here today. So thank you very much for that. We've had 13 different SDKs and tool previews so far. This is something that we've co-developed with the community. You all have given us lots of feedback on, what works for your apps, what doesn't work for your apps, what it is that you would like to see, and we've adapted in real time, along the past year. We've locked down all the features for our release. And we are currently in the process of releasing to retail Windows, which is 24H2, 25H2, and the things that come after that in the first quarter of 2026 calendar year. We actually were targeting a week from now originally, but we did run into a bug with some DJ controllers that blocked us from that. So we respun the release, and now we have Q1 2026 as our target for that. Everybody on those releases will get it via a Windows update, a KB on what we call the D week, because ABCD for the letters of or the numbers, if you will, for the week. So like the last week of probably February will be when this goes out. As a controlled feature rollout, we do a partial rollout. We make sure that we didn't break anything. And then if that works, then we roll it out to the remainder of the customer. So everybody will have it then by the end of Q1. And it's been a long journey for us because it does completely reroute everything in our old APIs through this new service. So this sets us up for really great MIDI in Windows for decades to come. Where all of our old APIs now are going through a service that's fully multi-client. Everything is UMP internally. Everything can use the new transports. Like we have things like network MIDI are able to be used by apps that don't even understand MIDI 2.0 yet. And the apps that do understand MIDI 2.0 get a lot of additional features as part of the API. So it's kind of like all one happy ecosystem there. There will be another app SDK release candidate before the end of this calendar year, probably in the next couple of weeks. That has no breaking changes in it, but does have a couple of bug fixes in there, as well as a couple of performance changes. Thank you to all the DAWs and companies and middleware, people like Juice and et cetera, who have been taking this journey along with us. We really appreciate that. And then finally, just as a non-MIDI thing, but just throwing this out here, our inbox low latency USB audio class 2 driver with ASIO support will also be in preview and insider builds in H1 2026. And that's just a shout out that's been developed by Yamaha in partnership with Qualcomm and Microsoft, but it will be available for all devices, not just ARM64 Windows devices. And so how do you get started? We have a Discord server at that link, which has been our primary means of communication about this. If you go to aka.ms whack MIDI, that has the docs, the SDK downloads, much more. If there's something that you don't want to post on Discord, you have a question, feel free to email me. It's just pmbrown@microsoft.com. And then, be sure to try out the products that are now supporting MIDI 2.0. Now, Andrew, now that we have that out of the way, because that was a kind of the blocker to everything else that we want to talk about here. Let's talk about like there was back in Berlin before Super Booth, there was a question, like how do we get everybody aligned on like MIDI 2.0 has a lot of features. How do we get everybody aligned to make sure people are developing the same features at the same time? So you want to go into the plan on that?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Thanks for everyone for coming along. One of the big things that we've been talking to a lot of people about, and especially on the booths, is like how do we actually get started? And these are different companies, and obviously we're trying to make sure that everyone has a good MIDI 2 experience. So one of the big things is we're trying to say is, all right, let's get everyone together. Let's make sure that everyone is working on the same parts of MIDI 2. There's quite a large different range of opportunities within MIDI 2. So let's get the different companies to connect, and so make it really good for the user and have the good experience. And obviously, the big part of this is we want to start a series of product alignment sessions between different companies, so that different companies can work together and support MIDI 2 appropriately. And we obviously, like we've done for many years, is provide help and support for those companies, and really try and get into the market with MIDI 2 products. And we're seeing that already. We've got some really good entries into the market already. We've been doing, we had at the Music China Run Your MIDI 2 Studio. We had Logic running with Yamaha Modi X and Studio Logic and a few other products as well. So people were very excited about that. We'll go to the next slide. So one of the things that we're asking companies to do is of the different parts of MIDI 2, probably the first thing we're going to ask them to do is let's get UMP into all the different products. Because one of the things that we did find is that, especially when we spoke to everybody, is that they understand where the MIDI 2 protocol and that high resolution is really beneficial to the actual users. They actually understood it. They were like, no, I want to use this. When can I have it? So we're trying to say, please make sure you use this. The customers understand what that means, and it also means that you can put your MIDI 2, have the MIDI 2 logo on your product, which is a great branding. Obviously, one of the big things that we're also saying is that, especially after Pete was saying that the Windows has been released, all of the modern OSs are using UMP internally, and if actually find more and more products internally are using that anyway as a code base. So we're trying to say, well, look, let's actually, now that it's there, let's actually make sure that you can move up to using groups and function blocks and group terminal blocks and all the rest of it as well. One of the things that we're also saying is, look, please make sure that people can actually play, edit, and record this high resolution data. And we've done actually a stack of articles on how to even present that to the user within MIDI.org, and well worth reading if you haven't already. And obviously, one of the things we're trying to say is, especially with a lot of DAWs, they don't internally use MIDI, but they do have their own internal protocols, so they do already have high resolution in there. And let's make sure that we can actually use that, not just internally, but when it's going in and out of a application that uses MIDI. So there's all these benefits with supporting UMP, and we're trying to encourage the companies to do that. Obviously, we have done a fair bit of work in translation, and there's also some appropriate code around that if you're not 100% sure about how to do the translation back down to MIDI 1. And also the other thing which we'll go into more into the sessions, is we're trying to say that flex data, especially when we're starting to look at things like the transport and location profile, again, very useful for you to start considering, because there's a lot of messages that have been in DAWs that haven't had a related MIDI message that we now have available within UMP. We'll go to the next slide. So on the flip side of not just supporting within applications, we're trying to say let's actually get MIDI 2 protocol and UMP into the hardware as well, because there is such a benefit there to the users. Again, it's the same benefits we talked about before. Users love that idea that they can do that, and that when they're turning the knobs, it's not just 127 steps or whatever. They're actually like, no, there's a whole extra range of use in there, especially. Pianists and composers really like the idea about the high resolution velocity as well. So these are really simple things that you can start with and then expand upon once you've got the baseline ready within your product. And the other big thing is that you can market that device as MIDI 2 ready. So even if the user has a MIDI 1 system, which, by the next couple of years, that won't really matter. And certainly internally on these operating systems, it'll be a MIDI 2. But if you're using an older application or something that still supports MIDI 1, there's no loss for that user. They still have the same experiences that they've had for many, many years. And indeed, it's just a way of going forward. Lastly, I wanted to kind of just touch on this because I think this is really important. There's a lot of work going on within the MIDI CI Helper working group. And one of the big things that we had a discussion with recently with AME in Japan was they are looking at this whole process to go from the hardware right through the DAWs and then obviously into the plugins. And plugins are a big area that, again, don't necessarily may use MIDI internally, but they do use the APIs that go between the different plugin formats like VST and Clap and AU and AAX, and so they're doing a lot of work in that in that particular working group, so that plugins can expose MIDI 2 features like which profiles that the plugin supports, so that then the DAW can manage that, and then the DAW can let the hardware know that. Now that work is ongoing, and I would absolutely recommend that everyone watches that very closely to see when that's ready. There's a lot of work uh, being done within the GitHub for adding this to the particular plugins. And the first set of profiles that have been really looked at by that group is the piano, which Mike mentioned earlier, orchestral articulation, and the drum profile. So again, very much a very important topic. And I think once that particular flow is actually all happening, then MIDI products themselves should absolutely start incorporating profiles into their development release. And from there, so here's the next stage. How do we get involved? And I encourage people to, we're going to have a look at having these product sessions probably on a quarterly basis. It's something where we think really what we need to have at those product sessions is the product owners, the product decision makers to come to those meetings and actually talk about what's going to be the best for their products. And not just that, how, yes, we put this in the product, but how's it, then who's it going to connect to, and who's going to actually be able to help at the other end? And we have a very much not quite a chicken and egg problem, because you can implement some of these things without worrying about the other end. But it's great if you can say, well, we've got this product, it's come along, and we know it's going to then work with this other product. And that is the beauty about MIDI, is that all of these different products work together, and that's the intention of this particular industry. If you can't come to the meetings, because we all know that everyone's busy, please do reach out to Pete or I anytime, and we can try and try and actually start the discussions. And from there,
Great.
I think I'm going to hand it
Thanks, Andrew.
back to Pete.
Yeah, thank you. And again, this is such an important thing to get people kind of all aligned so that everybody is able to make the best investments at the best time. So next, I would like to invite Florian Bomers here to put on his camera and unmute and go ahead and let's talk about transports. Florian?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I'm at a train station after a delayed train travel. So I hope this will work. I will turn off my camera and hope that things will go a little smoother then. So Network MIDI 2.0, the work in 2025 has, well, actually, the first thing to note is that exactly 1 year ago we published version 1.0 of the Network MIDI 2.0 specification. And this year we worked on an errata update with a couple of sort of bug fixes for the specification that we found. Nothing serious, just mainly clarifications. It's ready to be published, needs to go through the different bureaucratic hurdles, and we want AME support too. So that's going to come soon. And we are working on version 1.1. Currently, the main feature that will come there is remote session management, which allows central studio managers. And along with that also comes better capabilities discovery via MDNS. In the working group, we are confident that our current design will meet our requirements. And so we hope to be prototyping soon and finish the spec sometime in 2026. Okay, next slide. Of course, we're working also on other transports. Bluetooth, BLE, MIDI 2.0. Torrey has just started or is forming a working group. We'll discuss this later in the transport working group meeting, how that would be done, who would share it. Hopefully, Torrey, we'll see. So that's one thing that's important that's coming up. Web MIDI 2.0, we're also actively discussing that. I'm on my way to the Web Audio Conference where I will talk with the relevant people how to make that happen. There is a standing contribution from Benoit for the CAN bus, MIDI 2.0 or UMP over CAN. If that's something that interests you, we're currently discussing that. The serial, UMP over serial, and the Type 25 connector that we had previously presented here and which was worked on by Dave mainly, is currently suspended. If anybody would be interested in continuing that work, well, contact Dave or me. And just for completeness, the USB MIDI 2.0 standard is available for a long time and available in Apple and Linux, and Windows, as we've just heard, is coming. Next slide, please. So again, a call for participation. If any of these standards interests you, even if you don't think you can contribute, contact me nonetheless. Bluetooth, Web MIDI 2.0, CAN bus, serial type, and Type 25 connector. It's also important to know who is interested in any of those transports from MIDI 2.0. That's it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Florian. I'm very excited about those new transports here, and the MIDI Association can definitely use help from all the members on these. You mentioned Bluetooth, which I'm very excited about, but also Web MIDI 2.0, given the different companies that are involved and the different organizations, is something that really needs good, strong participation from the MIDI Association. So thanks to Florian as well for heading over to the web conference to see how we can best get plugged in there. So speaking of participation, next I'd like to turn it over to Athan for a moment here to talk about how to get involved in the MIDI Association and kind of how we work. So Athan, I invite you to turn on your camera and unmute and talk a bit about the MIDI Association.
Yeah, I think you can see that we've been busy as an organization. And, you know, when I explain to people, stand on at Music China or at the Tokyo Gaki Fair and explain what the MIDI Association does, what we do is we get really smart people to volunteer to work on really difficult problems. And once we solve those problems, we give those solutions away for free. That's what the MIDI Association has always done and always will continue to do. We are a member-run, volunteer-staffed organization, so we need your help. If you look at what the MIDI Association has done and AMI has done in the last year, we're MIDI 2.0 will be available on the Windows platform very soon. It's already on Apple. It's already on Linux. It is now time for you to do the work. And when I say you to do the work, we need our member companies to step up, get involved, contribute to the organization, and more importantly, start developing MIDI 2.0 products and putting them into the market. We're an all volunteer organization. We don't have the marketing staff that Roland, Korg, Yamaha, Native Instruments, all of our companies. Our strength is when we work together to bring a unified message. So we're asking you to start doing the work for us, and that's it. That's our request, and that kind of sums it up.
Thanks, Athan. And it's kind of a rising tide lifts all ships, so to speak. Here, so the more folks that we have in the MIDI Association that are involved in all these things Athan is talking about, the better it's going to be for all of us. So one of the things that we mentioned here for different ways you can get involved is we do have the MIDI working groups that are on the MIDI Association calendar. Here's just a sampling of them. Like, these are the places where, if you wanted to have input into specifications, input into the profiles, the things that Andrew's been talking about, the things that Mike's been talking about, stuff Athan's been talking about, these are places where you can get involved at a technical level, even above and beyond marketing and the other things that we are talking about. So please, if you're thinking about doing any products in this space, if you have questions about it, if you want inputs into a standard, then please join these different working groups so that we can make it better for everybody. And with that, I would like to open the floor for questions, or 20 minutes of uncomfortable silence, your choice, so that we can answer all the questions that you might have. So either go ahead and pop them in the chat, or raise your hand, and we'll unmute you so that you can ask your questions in real time. Thank you. Who's our first guinea pig? I will make you stare at me uncomfortably. Yep. My camera is not coming on.
There was a question from Jeff Whitehead. Is anyone working on MIDI 2 over JSON? And I think probably Andrew is the right person to answer that question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of a JSON, we have a couple of, we use JSON quite a lot within MIDI 2. I'm not sure this is going to quite answer your question. We obviously have Property Exchange, which uses we use Property Exchange, which uses JSON over MIDI, and so the idea is that you can like a REST API, so you can actually then make requests and then have changes occur or get data from a device. And then obviously one of the other things that we're looking at is WebMIDI 2, which obviously there's a lot of JSON within WebMIDI. But in terms of MIDI 2 over JSON, I'm not quite sure exactly what you mean by that, but I think that that'll be the two things that I would look at. I don't know if you want to provide some more context, that'd be great.
Yeah, Jeff, if you want to unmute and provide some more stuff there, that would be helpful. Jeff says, currently I'm setting MIDI 2 values via JSON to Touch Designer. I do not want to recreate anything. Okay. Andrew, like, any other comments on that?
Find JSON. Okay, I was in. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. One of the things that probably another area, and again, I don't think this is exactly answers your your question. One of the things that we are working on as well within MIDI Association at the moment is a list of of the UMP messages in JSON as in like a declarative language, but in terms of actually expressing MIDI 2 over JSON, I don't think we've actually done any work on that. It could be a very interesting project if that's something that you wanted to investigate further with other companies here, other members here.
Yeah, Jeff, I would take a look at DigiShow. There's an article on MIDI.org about DigiShow, which actually, I won't go into it, but what DigiShow actually does is it serves as a hub for different protocols, including Philips Hue, robotics, and they have a connection to Touch Designer. So just go to MIDI.org. I encourage everybody to always go to MIDI.org. Go to MIDI.org and search for DigiShow, and I think you'll find that there might be something interesting there for you.
Andrew, I also think so. Thanks, Athan. It's probably a good opportunity that if somebody like Jeff or Jeff is interested in proposing a new standard, proposing a new transport or something, like how would they get started with that?
Sure. The other, well, the couple of things that I would always recommend is put a question. First thing, let's start the question and discussion first on the forum, or you can certainly reach out to myself as either either as the chair of the TSB or as developer relations to kind of just even discuss the actual concept. And then if we formulate that and then you find out there's a few other people involved, the steps to go through that is that you can request a technical standards board item number. There's a process and a form that you can do with that. And from there, what will happen is the TSB will then formulate which working group it should go under, or whether it should start a new working group, and then you can start within that working group and then start working on your specification. But I think in that case, I certainly think that it's let's get the discussion rolling, because I think certainly if you've hit a problem you would like to see fixed, then I'm assuming that someone else has also hit that problem as well that they'd like to see fixed.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. There's another Jeff here who has a question for Athan. Said, I loved your distillation of what the MIDI Association is and does. Says, as I evangelize trying to get other companies, people to join, is there any other MIDI approved language that I can or should be using? So, Athan?
Yeah, Jeff, I think that's a great point. I mean, there was a lot of things on there's a lot of things on the MIDI Association website, but one of the things we may very well do is take the project that Pete and Andrew are focused on, which is that kind of product alignment, and get some language around that people can share. I think that's probably the first step for the product alignment group, is to come out with some language that can be used to evangelize MIDI 2.0. There's lots of stuff already in terms of, that's on our YouTube channel about what are the basics of MIDI 2, which comes down to, very simply, it's easier to use and it's more expressive. If somebody says, what does MIDI 2.0 do for you? It's easier to use because devices talk to each other and configure themselves, and it's more expressive because it has more resolution.
Great. Thanks, Athan. Other questions from the audience? Now is your chance to ask anything you want. Give it a minute here. All right. What's this? Is there a URL that talks specifically about the core values of MIDI.org? So, Athan, I don't have the link handy, but I seem to recall there's a page on MIDI.org that actually has that.
Yeah, there's an about page. If you just go to MIDI.org and look at the top level, there's an about page, and that really does kind of summarize what the MIDI Association is all about. There's also a video on that same page, which is on our YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
And before we go, because I think we're wrapping it up, I would really like to thank Pete for the great job that he does, not only chairing the executive board of the MIDI Association, but putting together this meeting, putting together the slides, and as I always say, herding the cats. Well, job well done, Pete.
Thanks, Athan. I appreciate it. All right. And I think we are all set for this year. So thank you very much. We'll see a lot of you in working group meetings in the rest of the year, and a lot of you also at the NAMM show and other events in 2026. So thank you all for making the MIDI Association and MIDI 2.0 so fantastic. Have a great rest of your year.